It is official. We're starting now. And thank you all. Cheers. And so, as you may know from years ago, I love doing these classes at the ashram, but I've been doing newsletters for the last decade. And truthfully, this is what I've always wanted to do. So here we go, trial run. And I am excited because this way in this live workshop, I really can just share more with you. And I also just think it's more fun. So health, is my ultra passion, and that it just brings joy to ourselves and to others too, to just be an example. And ultimately, you're just investing in a better future. And so there's really no better way to spend your resources and effort. So by the way, this is a two-part course, and we're going to first talk about just brain health, the what we have going on currently, just the problem, and then the solution. So the goal of this workshop is Alzheimer's prevention, mood enhancement, stress management, improving your clarity, linking it to your cardio health and immune system, and also weight loss. So I'm going to be sharing fundamental methods that you're going to be actually able to use right away. And really, the health of your brain is affected minute by minute. So I'm super excited to share with you just these things, which you'll be able to apply just to your everyday life. And you're going to really be surprised, both at how easy some of this stuff is and just also how incredibly effective it is. So the good thing about your brain health is it can be improved at any stage of your life. And so this is information that's going to be new to a lot of people. So I will repeat myself a couple times because sometimes new terms, new information can go in one ear and out the other, especially when packed into a short period. So I'll go ahead and share with you here that brain health is a passion for me because of my own healing that took 14 years of my complete focus. It was literally having, over the course of 10 years, thousands of seizures that was a bit inconvenient, to say the least, but it was nevertheless just an extraordinary opportunity to map out this incredible path of healing, learning so much from just the doctors in the world of neurology that now I just have something to share. So even if you're currently healthy, this is invaluable stuff for anybody. So I really believe that brain health impacts things tremendously. It's just a foundation for enjoying a happy life. And that if you think about it, it can really determine your mood and memory, your thinking, problem solving, communication with others, just to name a few things. And how you preserve these invaluable qualities just deserves as much attention as any part of your health. So here's why this is urgent, actually, and why I'm really calling this to happen is there has been a recent decline of overall average brain health, just especially here in the US, devastating these otherwise potentially invaluable qualities of life. And so Alzheimer's is just one of those examples that now it is more than doubled just in the last decade. Now, this is one of many things, actually, but just to really put it in more point-blank terms, once to the age of 85, the risk is now 50%. And this is due to very specific causes that are now known, but very few people know about. So, and it is in fact happening at an exponential rate. It's growing. And naturally, anybody that cares about their health should find this alarming and a major call to action. So, yeah, and the tough thing with things like this is there is no known treatment. There is no known treatment for Alzheimer's, and being the third leading cause of death, it's like, okay, well, let's do something. Don't roll with those statistics. Don't roll with the average, That, again, degenerative brain health interferes, and no matter what your age, it can actually be affecting you now, and then, of course, years ahead. And believe it or not, the brain situation is actually affecting our children, too, largely. And it's been an issue with learning disabilities, depression, rapid weight gain. We're going to loop how type 2 diabetes fits into all of this and why that is becoming common so fast. So the tough thing with brain health, especially, is a lot of people think, I'm fine. I've done this. I've been fine this far in life, and so it's a bit ignored. And in psychology, there's like this loyalty to belief systems, and the psyche just doesn't like to be challenged. The important thing is facts break such barriers, since you can't argue with the powers of nature and statistics. So until now, people have really thought it's genetic, though, and that's why partially it has been ignored. But the really good news that we've discovered is we have control over gene expression, which we're going to talk about. Being doomed to genetics is actually an old model, and your health routine, appropriately applied, can actually turn on inactive, top-notch genes. And this subject is epigenetics, which sounds complex, but we're going to simplify it that with our lifestyle, we are actually going to learn neurogenesis, which is the renewal of your brain cells, and just how to do that. And that this is actually a breakthrough discovery just back in 2000. That before, we didn't think it was possible. You've probably heard you can't grow new brain cells, and that's actually not true. That it can grow new cells. And so if back in the day, if you didn't live the healthiest way of life with alcohol, drugs, or just an unhealthy diet, thinking, oh man, I wiped out a lot of my brain cells. That is not so. That with this process of neurogenesis, of growing new neural pathways, new connections, rewiring, literally building new dendritic trees throughout the brain, that you can improve the overall operation of your brain at any point in your life. We're going to get into the topic of neuroplasticity too, of how this can affect the health of your thought. So essentially, the big picture is we want to continually be improving and rejuvenating the biology of your brain. Otherwise, it just ages. And so we always want to be growing it rather than just going with the notion that after a midlife crisis, it's a decline, of course. So all the above, great news that you can not only mitigate the risk of the current average decline of brain health, your brain health, like I said, can actually be significantly improved upon at any age. So I just got distracted by something, and cheers. Okay, so I am basically going to give you the lifestyle recipe of Miracle-Gro for your brain, actually. And that it is going to be a blend of diet, the right diet, exercise, and sleep to speed neuron production and how they all work together in the brain. It's kicking in the glymphatic system with the right sleep. You can actually, with exercise, stimulate these growth hormones. And that we are, of course, going to be hitting the anti-inflammatory diet and the right foods that are literally building blocks for new neurons, new brain cells, and the health of your brain. It's going to be huge. So we're basically going to be using all of this to remodel the internal structure of your brain. And the big one, of course, that everybody knows about is diet. That we want the diet, however, to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem of just an unhealthy diet. That we just know that poor diet and lack of exercise really can be two problems that exacerbate each other, but you've heard me before how they can work together, that it's getting the right nutrients with your diet and then pumping the handle with your exercise. That's the quick abbreviated version, which I want to explain to you what's going on and how that solves our problem. But I do want to say that the biggest factor, well, actually there are three big factors for for the enduring, long-lasting neurological system. And that really, the nutshell of it is healthy circulation. The bottom line, inflammation is the biggest enemy when it comes to the health of your brain. That inflammation, literally, we're talking, it's inflammation on a microscopic level that restricts blood flow. And I've always emphasized in the past that if there ever was a silver bullet to health, it would be nutrient-rich blood, of course. And so we're trying to get circulation of this silver bullet, if we can call it that. But then it preserves the health of everything, especially the brain. So the key is, again, to hone the anti-inflammatory lifestyle in order to optimize that blood flow that the brain, believe it or not, has 400 miles of vessels. 400 miles of vessels in the brain. It's a vascular organ. So I'm going to talk about, actually, the biggest problems here. It's two. So exercise is sort of in a separate category. It's actually stress plus the inflammatory diet. That this is affecting, when it comes to memory, it's affecting the hippocampus, which literally can shrink over time. It literally just is not getting enough blood flow, and it disrupts gene expression. So, and it can set off a whole a snowball effect of, I mean, basically can accelerate too, and can trigger things such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, and a whole host of other things, cancer, autoimmune diseases. The problem with the stress and diet combination is the brain barrier actually becomes insulin resistant due to damaged receptors, and the hippocampus, which is your memory, needs insulin. So it is known that the high insulin that later can lead to type 2 like a temporary type 2 diabetes, believe it or not, is actually present in 60% of cases of people with dementia. So again, if there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's just that we are fighting that microscopic inflammation throughout tissues in the body. So for me, that's actually why inflammation is such a passionate issue, because it was seizures that caused inflammation for me. So my whole gig was the anti-inflammatory diet, and I learned so much about it that way. So I want to talk about stress. Okay, so we know, of course, that stress does affect our health. But for example, we know that stress affects the immune system, not breaking news. But how it affects brain health is very interesting and significant. So first of all, we think of stress as like the boss riding us hard, but it's a lot of things that all add up. It's the day-to-day pressures, really. There are just so many things now, everything from just paying bills on time, driving to and from work, appointments, errands, even the grocery store, constantly stimulated by cell phones, traffic, unpleasant news, television, radios. Anyways, you get the idea. And so this starts from the morning we wake up now, and then there are also the bigger ones like stressful relationships, financial, caring for the health of a family member potentially. So today it's the multitasking with the sense of urgency. So it's kind of like having too many programs open on your computer, where it slows your computer down. And even things like stressful entertainment, movies, like horror, thrillers, movies that are tragic, do, believe it or not, cause an oxidative stress, which sets off another problem in this whole regard. So while we think of it as disengaging temporarily from our own challenges, like unhealthy entertainment, that's what it is. Unfortunately, it does stimulate this bioneurological reaction. And so, we're built to be an empathetic species. So observing the physical and emotional trauma of others still does stimulate cortisol. So these micro stresses, the always being turned on does add up, just being stimulated by the outside world. And it's something, however, just we all have to deal with. It doesn't necessarily have to take away from our quality of life. There are ways to help this, and so this is what we're going to talk about. And the reason that now there's an urgency is actually, of course, there's more to worry about than ever. Just with COVID, that definitely has interfered with our overall sense of peace and well-being. So, back in the day, we just didn't have this much stuff. That there was more like the acute stress, like sort of an emergency, like running for your life from a tiger. So there would be a spike in cortisol so you could run. But now it's like this chronic stress just from so much going on all together. And so, and believe it or not, so that was originally affecting the older generations, but not so much for kids. But now, today, kids are dealing with a lot of this stress just due to all the above, and they pick up on our stress too. Even video games, believe it or not, just aren't therapeutic. And we're going to talk about that, how it's affecting them, that actually it kind of stimulates like this, it can stimulate a stress hormone. So the chain reaction of what's happening with stress is your body produces cortisol. We know that. It's a natural stimulant, which isn't necessarily all bad, but it's when it's like this constant chronic like trickle. Chronic stress, chronic cortisol, it does its damage. Here's why. Stress produces this oxidative stress. It's a chemistry stress that actually causes free radicals. Free radicals, we've always known, cause inflammation. Same as the wrong foods, like sugar. And so another thing is cortisol production steals the substrates, the same materials used for the production of oxytocin, which is that feel-good hormone from being around friends, laughter, love, and things of that nature that we all need more of course. Need to be on the oxytocin lifestyle. And then the other part of it is, so the amygdala is what handles stress, and it's in the brain. And so substrates, materials, are taken that the brain would otherwise use for the hippocampus, which is handling your memory. So it can literally stave, starve, shrink your hippocampus. And then the fourth one is the microbiome, your digestive health, your gut health, that cortisol on a chronic level, when you're constantly stimulated, actually alters the microbiome, which there is a strong connection between your microbiome and the brain. That there is actually a neural pathway that it's why, for example, if you feel nervous, you get the butterfly feelings. Another example is the majority of your body's serotonin is actually produced in your gut. Serotonin, which regulates your mood. So that is and then the problem with that mixed in is the stress blood sugar connection. That the way it's related with the digestive system is cortisol naturally raises blood sugar, because the cortisol is the natural stimulant. So you need the blood sugar in order to have that, for the two to work together. And that is why cortisol, that stress, that chronic stress, can actually lead to type 2 diabetes, because it stimulates this constant insulin. And then you have this, basically this intense craving for sugar, and we're going to talk about that in the diet section. But nutshell version, you can see how all of these things add up, and that stress creates the domino effect where all of these things become weaker, and it absolutely reflects with just irritability, brain fog, being forgetful, losing some motivation, not feeling revitalized, especially in the morning, and depression and loss of focus. All of these to some degree. And it is worth noting that stress can affect women more than men, just being them being largely the primary caretakers of children. They have more to think about, at least the really important stuff, interestingly. So, bottom line, we know now how stress damages the brain, and so it's a big factor, absolutely, why Alzheimer's is now more than doubled in the last decade, making it a 50% risk for people over 85. This is all a very big deal. Again, thankfully, we know we can actually do healing. We can grow the hippocampus. We can create new neural pathways. We can do an internal remodeling. And so that's why right now the stress management is absolutely critical. But unchecked, it's just going to add up over time. It's absolutely inevitable. So next, we are going to talk about diet, but that's almost it for today. That we actually did go over because we got the late start due to the technical issue. Thank you for those of you who hung in there and were patient. So I want you to go away with this today, not worrying though. That we all have stress, and thankfully there are things we can do to mitigate it, and there are things we can do with our diet and exercise to mitigate the damages and grow new brain cells. And so for mitigating stress, we are going to talk about that in the next session. But just to send you away with 3 things today that you can do. As soon as this is done, just sit up tall and smile and take some deep breaths. And by doing that, that literally takes 5 seconds, you are turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. And you're just building your body's built-in tools. That it instantly makes you feel better just in literally seconds. It's amazing just how fast you can affect the state of your mind. And then in the meantime, you can reflect on the fact that you're here on Earth. Being here is a mind-blowing phenomenon in the first place. And that alone that means that you have much more in your life going well than not. And that you're on the new level of a brink of awesomeness. So, and then number 2, go for a walk today for at least 20 minutes with your pet, if you have one, and have a FaceTime with a family member or friend. And then the bonus is before you go to bed, you can read something positive or listen to an audiobook. My favorite, Power of I Am by Joel Osteen. Can't recommend it highly enough. And so that's it. We're going to see you October 1st. That's Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And by the way, so my book, Infinity Health Manual, is all about just the anti-inflammatory way of life. And I also do talk about stress in the Power of the Mind chapter. We're just going into it in much greater depth in this series of videos that we're doing. And because of the information in my book being so valuable, I am offering the e-version for free. So I am going to put the link to the Infinity Health Manual page where you can get the free download. And that's it. And then below you can also hit subscribe so that if and when I do these classes in the future, you just automatically know about it in advance. Awesome. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will do this again. All right. You guys have an awesome day. And by the way, next time we'll have time for Q&A. That we went over and didn't have time for that. So next time. All right, you guys. Thanks again, and have an awesome day. Bye now.